This is Real Francamente, the podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for listening. And without further ado, let's bias your football content. Welcome to episode 16. We are doing it. We're doing it live. We're doing it big. Remember that? Doing it live. It was like a thing. What's up? What is going on? We're in the middle of summer. We're towards the end of summer, actually. Really, really sad. If you're watching on YouTube, I am sun-kissed, man. I am red. I'm a little red. Spent some time at the beach this week. I'm wearing an Arsenal kit from 2020. It's the marble kit. Some people called it the murder kit. I am Arsenal adjacent. This kit is right from my kit closet. And they've got cool stuff. Like they've got like the coolest stuff that Adidas just never fails to make their stuff so sexy. So this one's cute. You know, it's a vibe. It's a vibe. The aesthetic is good. Some people like it. Some people, it's very controversial. Some people love it. Some people hate it, just like me. So what's going on? What is going on? The last episode was so controversial, full of hot, spicy takes. A little bit to continue on some of that narrative, because I think the night that I recorded the last episode, or maybe like the night after, like a day or two after, I don't even remember, was the night that Messi debuted with Miami FC, which like talk about a dilemma, right? Talk about being torn between like hating the fact that he's in MLS, which I still do, and like an historic moment, right? Like where he went in, he like played incredible that game already. Like he's literally, I mean, there was not a doubt that he was going to come in and change the game, literally. Like he's Lionel Messi. And there's so much freaking discourse that I like even got into that night on Twitter. And like, it's funny because I had already recorded the episode, but it hadn't dropped. So some people were literally making the exact arguments that I had already preemptively talked about on the episode that later dropped, right? Like so much US centrism, so much of that, like, you know, like a victimization of like, oh my gosh, how can you be watching Messi when the US women's national team's playing? Like they fell right into that trap. Those, you know, those US stands who are playing that thirsty game of like, oh my gosh, this is so important. Like it's desperate, it's cringe. There's so many takes that were so terrible on that night. Sorry that Messi, you know, debuting is a historic moment, and I'm allowed to think that, and you're allowed to watch the US women's national team. Like there's not like, why are you gonna shame those of us that are choosing to watch Messi? First of all, I hate the US national team myself personally, for any gender. We talked about it last week, but intersectional imperialism is still imperialism, right? So like, just because it's women doesn't mean they're any less imperialist. Why would I watch them? They're arrogant as hell. When they ended up making it through to the round of 16, it was embarrassing. It was an embarrassing show of arrogance and cringe when they played the most mediocre games at best, right? And so like the celebration were cringe. It was arrogant. It was disgusting. Like that's what you're celebrating. Like ultimately, besides the fact that it's women, like you're still celebrating imperialism. So sorry that like this historic moment for some of us was that important, but it was the exact argument. It's all of the arguments that I made on the last episode. If you watched, listened, or even saw some of the brilliant clips that are amazing, incredibly talented producer pulled out from that episode. Like it's just cringe. It's just cringe. There's so much there to unpack. But it's just been so awesome to see, regardless of the fact that fundamentally, and I talked about this when I was on Sports as a Weapon, I talked about this also on this podcast, that like fundamentally nothing's going to change in MLS. Like Messi is literally like revolutionizing it in the way that like he's literally he's leagues above, right? Like he's talk about out of a league. I mean, in the literal sense, right? We use that as a metaphor. Talk about out of our league. right? He totally is like playing for fun. It's like he's like playing like foosball. He's playing a game, right? And still way like not even a question of how he's too good for this shit league. It's funny because today there was that, you know, that moment that got leaked. I think it was RSL that had a record fall on the ceiling. Everyone was tweeting like, this is the same league Messi plays in. Like the absurdity of it all is just so, it's like, it's chef's kiss. Like, I actually think that that's quirky and fun and funny that it's like in the same league, we've got Messi and a raccoon falling through like a moldy ceiling. I think that's funny, but like, yeah, like it's not gonna like literally fundamentally change anything about MLS. MLS is still shit. And Messi's still like the greatest of all time. So you've gotta like just laugh. You've gotta like appreciate it. I think all of the things, you know, when the Publix thing went, that was like, oh, he goes and does his own shopping. That was partially a publicity stunt because Publix is a sponsor of Miami FC, but also it would like he could, you know, like he's a regular dude. He's just a regular dude. And I think he's really enjoying being able to exist like in a more chill way, because yes, like obviously everyone's going nuts for Messi in the football space, but outside of the football space, like there's people in this country that definitely don't recognize him, would not be able to pick him out of a lineup. So that makes things actually safer for him, whereas in other countries he's played in, he could probably not do any of these regular person activities. I think he's enjoying being able to like have his kids right there, like, you know, like pitch side and, you know, like his whole family. So I think it's awesome. I love seeing him in pink. I'll be honest. Like I love seeing him in pink. I am not above owning a pink Messi kit. Okay. You heard it here first. If you had asked me before any of this debacle, if I would ever own a Miami FC kit, no, I would not, because of everything that, you know, it represents. There's gusanos in Miami, like no, but like the pink is, I've always said the pink is nice. Their first season they were way too light on the pink. Now they've really leaned into it. It's a nice shade. And like Messi's there now. What do we like? I have to. But it's just been so fun. Again, like those are the only MLS games I refuse to watch my team. I don't know why. I have such an aversion. I've had like trauma from being a fan of this team. I won't watch my own team, but I've watched Messi play because yeah, I do. I mean, like he's he's Messi, like he's Messi. Like, do you know me at all? So yeah, so that's what's happening. And I just can't, you know, it brings me joy to see him having fun. And you know, it's like the first goal he scored, Beckham cried, like literally cried, real tears. Like Kim Kardashian went to that game. It was insane, you know. And some of the tweets that were funny too were like, oh, this cup, and you know, the cup, what is that cup? Is it the league's cup? There is now one of the viral tweets, or like one of the tweets in football Twitter that I remember that was hilarious was there's now a universe in which Kim Kardashian is aware that this cup exists, or that the team that they were playing, I forget now what team it was from the Mexican league, that they exist, right? Like imagine, I mean, like if you had said that in 2007, 2008, 2009, at the height of Kim Kardashian's popularity, when she first, you know, had the show and everything, like you can't make this up. You like, the world is literally imploding. Everything's going to shit. Okay. One of my favorite news cycles has been about aliens recently because it's hilarious. I've made it onto alien TikTok, and that is where folks are making TikToks that are like, you know, oh, like, why would we care about aliens when literally we can't pay our rent, we don't have food, we don't have housing, the world is literally not even in global warming anymore, we're in global boiling. Like, what the fuck do we care about aliens? Like, thank you so much. Will you take us with you? Like that kind of narrative, I think is hilarious. Okay. Everything's going to shit. Everything's the worst. Everyone's the worst. Why not find a little joy in watching Messi find a little joy in this shit league, right? I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know. But it is interesting that same day that happen, like where I was railing against it already on my last episode, against like those people that are like, but, you know, us. And it's like, just enjoy your shit. Just enjoy your shit. Like, enjoy it. Like, be confident that it's good. We don't need bigots to like join us. But it's just a lot, man. It's just a lot. Speaking of the Women's World Cup, so like now at this point, at the time of recording, the group stages have ended, and we have not started yet the round of 16. It's been really interesting. I think one of the I guess sad for some and cool, like awesome for others, was Jamaica making it out of the group, and Brazil not. And like obviously sad for Marta, who's the greatest woman player of all time, like the greatest woman to play football of all time. And I think if we look, depending on, you know, obviously like US centrists will have their own opinion, but I think she's the greatest to ever do it. And like for this to be her last one and like to go home like that, it kind of sucks. But it's really awesome to see Jamaica. It's really awesome to see, like, so for 3 out of 4 of the African teams made it through to the round of 16. I think that's remarkable. Especially when you look at the upward trajectory of women's football, right? And so like some of the arguments, which I agree with, I want women's football to be more popular. I want there to be more money, you know, because more money equals more resources, equals more exposure, equals more women playing, more girls playing, you know. I think it's remarkable to look at the relatively short history of the Women's World Cup and seeing how, yes, while the US unfortunately dominates because of imperialism, there is a trickle down effect, right? Where I think other, you know, smaller underdog kind of countries getting, you know, more exposure, like having the ability to play, it's only good. It can only be good, right? For all of us, for everyone. So we're going to root hardcore for some of these global South countries. And there's quite a bit of them. So let me see. When does the round of 16 starts on Saturday. We've got Switzerland playing Spain. We've got Japan playing Norway. We've got the Netherlands playing South Africa. Interestingly, and so South Africa, obviously complex for different reasons in terms of stuff that's going on, narratives, you know, things, you know, with geopolitically, but it is a global South country in the end. And so I think out of the ones in that day that are playing, I mean, it's a lot of global North energy that day. But again, that's where we can look at like where the US dominates it, that's imperialism, versus like the rest of the world hasn't caught up yet. So you don't look at a women's team like Switzerland or like Spain like you would, you know, well, like I say you, but I mean like those of us that are socially conscious, that look at international tournaments with this lens, right, of like the socio-political component. You don't see it as like, you see like everything a little bit differently, because intersectionality is a thing. And so we've got to kind of like, we've got to like rethink who our underdogs are versus who are, you know, who our imperialists and our global North folks are. Sweden versus USA. I always make that's Sunday. I always make the IKEA joke when the men play. And I'm like, you know, when Sweden plays and I root for them, I'm always like, let's go to IKEA or like things like that. So like that day I'm going to IKEA, right? And rooting for Sweden hardcore. I want the US out. Regardless of gender, that's called equity. Okay. Imperialism is imperialism across the board. Yeah, so that's a thing. Then we've got England playing Nigeria. Obviously, we're going for Nigeria. Like, England's good. I mean, I don't know. Australia, Denmark, Colombia versus Jamaica. That's going to be an interesting one, because Colombia's been really good. I obviously am going to root for Jamaica, though. I mean, if you know me and my personal opinions on certain Latin American countries, but again, that does change for me personally. If it's women, right? There's a component of social justice, of intersectionality that entails rethinking outside of the US, because the US is imperialist through and through. And you see it even in the attitude of some of these players for the US, like just it's just gross. If like it's cringe. It's cringe. I just can't do it. France versus Morocco's, first of all, a rematch of the Men's World Cup thing, and then like there's like the colonialism, the colonialism aspect of it. Super, super interesting to watch and see. And like it's also interesting that Morocco had that success at the Men's World Cup. And I don't think it's unrelated that the women, kind of like, I wouldn't say surprised necessarily, because again, like the dynamic is always different. But they made it out. Who knows? Maybe that's another Cinderella story. Maybe the women and the men are having their both teams are having their moment. Like, so like definitely cheering for Morocco in that matchup of colonialists versus colonized. Right. Really cool stuff. I'm still being really, really, hesitant to enter any discourse based on the way that people like just are so virtue signally. Like it's so bad. It's so gross. But yeah, like, I mean, the misogyny's still there, there's lots of battles. There's lots of nuance. Remember, nuance is dead. Nuance is dead. I used to say this early on. And it's true. So it's really hard to have these discussions. It's really hard to enter the discourse, right? When you know what it's going to be met with. But we can only try, we can only continue. So it'll be really interesting to see how this goes. I'm excited. I think, in terms of international tournaments, like supporting this tournament is important, right? Without going to that place that I went into last week, that I talked about last week. But it's just it's interesting. It's interesting to see, the dynamic. The other day where was I? I was at a pizzeria, and someone walked in, and like, the pizzeria had like all this like Italian stuff and like soccer stuff on the wall. And a man, an older white man walked in, saw the stuff on the wall and started talking about the Italy women's national team. And like the pizzeria guys were kind of like, so you can, but it was like the dynamic of like the fact that it was even brought up. I don't think I have ever seen it in the wild, right? Outside of like my circle. There's places that are like that will show women's World Cup matches, right? On TVs, bars, things like that. So just really, really interesting stuff. Watching it grow. Like, I think little kids seeing themselves represented. There's also something to be said about the narrative of the Women's World Cup and that whole, I don't know what, like, like, oh, women's sports and everything like that, because you want to be mindful of the gender binary too, right? Like if folks, what happens, for the next generation of folks who are non-binary, who don't fall within one of the like the two genders that are socially acceptable, let's call it. What do we do with that? What do we do? So does it become a thing where like rooting for the Women's World Cup, like more, and like, this becomes a little bit like turf territory, or does it not? Obviously the women's game is a lot more welcoming of LGBTQIA plus identities. That happens in basketball, that happens, in many sports, than men. The men's sides, you don't see any support, right? You don't see anyone openly out. Unfortunately, very, very, very little by little it is changing. But what do we do when everything's so gendered, right? What happens to to this discussion in a year and 5 years and 10 years, right? In terms of what that will look like when we start to see some actual progress, if we start to see some actual progress on this front of accepting that there are not just two genders, right? So it's really interesting. It's really interesting to have these discussions. But yeah, so really cool stuff going on. We'll see how it all works out with the round of 16. And with that, we're going to go to break and we'll be right back.
Hey, make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. And help us out by leaving a rating and review, and remember to share it with a friend. Don't forget to follow Franca on Twitter and Instagram at Francamente for the latest news. And lastly, please visit realfrancamente.com for bonus content, including articles, photos, and for more information about the podcast.
All right. So we are back. Big news in South American ball. I mean, this is one of the best things, in my opinion, to happen in a very long time, in the most exciting signings, especially for my two identities. And that is, drum roll, what are we talking about? We're talking about Cavani to Boca Juniors. The way that I twerked on a wall when I found out that was happening. I'm just kidding. Or am I? No. It's like, I can't imagine a more joyful intersection of things I love than Cavani and Boca Juniors. Okay. Like, that isn't like what, like, I what a fit, like, for seeing Cavani in the Boca kit, like, just, the marketing, like the announcement around it, everything was so good, like, well done and just like so classy. They started, Boca started by, just posting a picture of like a suitcase and a mate and like the little Uruguay flag. And it was like, and like, there are obviously rumors. Like, I am of the belief that I don't believe a rumor. Even if Fabricio Romano says it, like, I don't believe a rumor until I see, I've said this before in public, until I see the person in a kit warming up, okay, with their team. I don't believe it until there's an announcement from the official team account. And the announcement includes the person in a kit, because so much stuff I've been, there's things have fallen through, this, that, the other thing. So I'm like, it's a no from me. But when Boca started, so there were rumors. And so when Boca started, but I didn't, there's always, I was like, oh, no, this is too good to be true. So Boca posted that thing. I was like, it could be anyone really. Uruguayans and Argentinians play, Uruguayans play in Argentina all the time, vice versa. Like, could have been anyone. And then they did a couple other teasers, and then like the announcement graphics, I don't know, whoever is the community manager, it's called globally, but it's like the person that runs social media, that does whatever, plus the designer, whoever, everyone involved in the marketing team for Boca Juniors around this announcement deserves a massive raise. It was all so well done. All of the videos, like, once we actually saw him in the kit, there was one of the announcements was a mate with like the engraved, like little Boca Juniors, like, I mean, it, and his name, it was just so good. Every single thing made me happier than the last, when he finally came out of the tunnel. I mean, and like they had, the official announcement. It was just so good. I'm like, I can't. It makes me so happy to see him in those colors. It makes me excited again. Not that I ever wasn't excited about Boca, but like, how amazing to have that to look forward to. Everything's let's remember, everything's in shambles. Everything's in shambles. Okay. Like, capitalism sucks. Like, everything's expensive. We can't pay our rent. No one, like, everything sucks. Everything sucks. And so let me disassociate, okay, a little bit with enjoying this signing that is historic, right? Of Cavani going up. Like Cavani has always played. Cavani, like let's talk about it. Cavani has played for Napoli. Maradona, Napoli is like, if I, like again, like the Serie A is not my league, but obviously like always have been a Napoli fan, within those confines because of Maradona. Like there's no question about it. Also like the fact that Napoli is a region within Italy that faces racism, right? Like even though they're Italian, there's this whole thing. So like obviously, right? So like he's played for Napoli, he's played for Manchester United, my team, regardless of what I'm currently wearing. Okay. And like now he's playing for, I mean, like obviously, like he's played for teams, but I'm just like talking about the ones that mean so much to me. Right. And like he's an incredibly strong, like serious, humble, he embodies that je ne sais quoi that is the Uruguayan garra charrua, like, and humbleness. So a lot of what we talk about when we talk about Uruguayan football is the humility, despite being the first team to ever win the World Cup, the first team to host the World Cup, which obviously that history weighs heavy, right? Like obviously that's why we've got some of the best players in the world consistently, despite being a tiny country of 3 million, right? I don't think another player encompasses that spirit of humility while at the same time being off the charts good, as Cavani does. He's like a serious guy. He doesn't do mess, he doesn't do drama. He's committed to his teams. Like whoever he has running his social media and designs and everything, like when he was at United, he would post a graphic, him like his own brand or whatever you want to call it, like a graphic per game. Every single game he would post something for, like just on his own, regardless of whatever the team posted. Like I think that's like the commitment, to like the like the commitment to your job, like the loyalty, right? The loyalty to have that discipline to say like my job is to also post and promote, even though these are some of the Manchester United is one of the biggest brands in the world, right? In terms of marketing, and it's become, it's a corporation at this point. But he would do that. And so like, it's just incredible to see, like, it's been rare recently. Well, I mean, the biggest joy of all I had recently in December, right? Of Argentina winning the World Cup. But it's been rare recently to be this excited or have this exciting of a move, right? I think Bielsa to Uruguay was my last biggest excitement that I also didn't believe was happening. I didn't believe it was happening until it was super official because I didn't want to get my hopes up and all that stuff. And it's just it's nice to be able to have those moments of joy, those brief moments of joy. Like few things these days bring us all joy, and Cavani to Boca Juniors, it's wholesome, it's sweet, it's amazing. It's the juxtaposition of two beautiful things coming together. The spirit of Boca, the team of the people. Boca Juniors is literally the team of the people in Argentina and in Latin America. Like it's, there's all sorts of things in terms of the history of it. They've also been targets of all sorts of like racism and classism because it's a poor neighborhood, especially, and this is all jokes aside about how River is unrateable, right, in terms of the rivalry, but also like all jokes aside, that River calls themselves los millonarios. They revel in that identity of being from the rich part of town, right? Versus Boca, like the team of the people, they're darker complected people who live there and things like that. And so there's all sorts of racism that's always hurled against Boca Juniors. And so like in terms of that, right? It's special. It's special. So yeah, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. Like also this Boca kit is one of the sexiest they've had in years. It's like it's like a kind of a throwback edition to the most classic Boca kit that Maradona wore. And it's just so good to see Cavani in it. And the I on the kit front, I want to just mention Boca Juniors, please, if you're listening, don't ever pair that gorgeous, sexy, sleek kit with white shorts. What is you doing? When I saw that, I was like, dude, I'm glad Cavani didn't play in that game. Okay, because what was that? It was so ugly. It's so ugly. It didn't match. I wonder if something happened where like there was something and like they couldn't wear the normal shorts because it would have clashed with the other team. I don't know what it could have been, but regardless, like it was ugly as hell. So on the kit front, on the fashion front, please consult me, your image consultant, next time before deciding to wear white shorts, okay, with the sexiest Boca kit we've had in years. I want to get it. I want to get it though from before they actually had an official sponsor. I wanted to get it last year because a sponsorless kit, y'all know I will do anything for a sponsorless kit. And I want to relatedly, and I want to shift over to kind of like end on this note of human rights and of social justice to kind of like bring it full circle to, you know, the misogyny discussion, and Boca Juniors is still related. Argentina has the organization. If you're watching on YouTube, that's what that handkerchief is right there above me. For Las Madres de Plaza de Mayo, later became Las Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo. And they are an organization of human rights that has been recognized internationally because they are reuniting families with their lost, taken, stolen, right? Babies, grandbabies, during the dictatorship. And in the last few, let me check, days, when was this? This was around, yeah, like in the last few days, they found grandchild number 133. So they all, so I remember vividly, like maybe 15 years ago, they were on Nieto numero like 119. So it's been in a 10-year period, we've found like 13, 14, we've reunited 13 or 14 families, which is, I think, the rate of how quickly they're coming is unprecedented, okay, which is awesome. And the reason I bring this up is because, of course, there's always a football connection. There's teams that are more likely to be committed to social justice causes, right? And so one of the teams that plays in Argentina, Villa del Mine, it was against Villa del Mine. The team is Ferro, right? And they are always very much about like this cause. They always have tifo and things like that. And so they quickly made a tifo to welcome this nieto, this grandchild. And they always say, like, if you ever have doubts, right? Because children, grandchildren, people of a certain age, my age and a little older, know that what happened, know the history. And a lot of times the reason why they're able to be reunited is because the children themselves, we're grown-ups now, come forward to say, I'm not sure, I'm adopted, quote unquote adopted. And I don't know, like, let me get tested. And this is how it happened. So any clout, any team, any player that can bring awareness to this organization and to this process and like normalize it is really, really amazing and commendable. Messi, to bring it full circle to the beginning of this episode, has done work with the Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo. He's done, ads and commercials for them and things like that. So it's really great to see when social justice and football causes collide, right? It's the crux of everything we do at Real Francamente. So really exciting, happy news to end on. So yeah, thank you so much. Another quick episode. We're in the summer months, right? So it's all right. It's all right that these are quick and snappy, right? Snappy. We love a snappy episode. But yeah, check us out. Let me know what you think. Give me your opinions, only if they're good. And we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you liked it. This has been Real Francamente, the podcast. My name is Franca. I'm your host. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Real Francamente on both. Check out the website, www.realfrancamente.com, where you can find lots of content, or contact us directly through the website with any questions or comments. You can also contact us on socials. All links and ads will be in the show notes if you need them or want them. And for ease of not having to spell them yourself, please subscribe on your favorite platform and maybe leave us a rating and a review if you like it, and share with your friends. Don't forget to buy us your football content. Gracias y ciao.